Hey everyone, this is part two. This is our tutorial about using some virtual software to make a text monument on campus. This is a software called TinkerCad. It is a browser-based software, so you can just simply go to tinkercad.com, create an account. I like to use my academic account, and then you could just create any old password. You will need to include your phone number so that they can text you a code so that you can access it. But ultimately, this is a pretty easy browser-based software that we can use for our project. So first off, this is the TinkerCAD interface. The way that you can navigate is this little cube up here. If you click and hold that down with your mouse, you can navigate around. You can also zoom in and out with your mouse by, scrolling in and out, or if you have a trackpad, just kind of like two-finger scrub across to get it to zoom in and out. It'll automatically name your project something weird like this, so you can easily just change this. I'll just call this my last name if I spell it correctly, and 3D model maybe. Okay, there we go. So the way this works is you can just simply take one of these models, drag it into your scene, and then you can start to scale it and shift it and shape it however you like. For our purposes, we're going to be using this text form. So if you just click and drag the text in here, um, you'll get this menu that pops up, and here you can title whatever you want. So let's just do this. Do this want versus need. How about that? And now it's a 3D form. So if you want to change it a bit, you can do a few things. First off, you can change the font. Unfortunately, with this software, there's only three fonts to choose from. So there is the Sans font, and I guess there is the multi-language font, Sans Mono, and Serif. So whatever you feel like is best, you can use that. You can also break this up. So if I just wanted to type the word want and then make another one, drag another one in for need, you could kind of stack it and do different things if you want that way. So that's kind of how I made this. I typed in your voice matters and then I arranged them into, I separated the letters and arranged them so I could make this a little more sculptural in that sort of way. In this case, though, a few things that we can change the height of the letters. So if you wanted something really tall, you could change the height that way. If you zoom into this, if we add a bevel, you can increase the bevel, and you have to have more segments for the bevel to show up. So here you can see if I do like 3 segments, there's a little bit of rounding, so it's not such a hard edge. If you want it to be more of an angle, you just do 1 segment, and then it's more hard edged like that, right? And you can increase and decrease the size of the bevel. So that could be a good possibility for you. Now, for this to be kind of sculptural, a couple things that I might want to do is, first off, I might want to just rotate this. So if I just kind of navigate to the side a little bit, I can see these little arrows are hovering over. And if I click and hold this down and drag, it'll snap into increments. So I'll just change it to 90 degrees. And now this is like standing upright, right? The other thing is if you wanted to play around a little bit with the form of the text, you could increase the scale. So you have these little white handlebars here can increase the depth and dimension, the scale. You could also type something in. So if you wanted this to be exactly like 120, you could type that in. And so you could kind of like change the form of it by just simply scaling it in different directions that way, right? Another thing that you could do with this, if you wanted to, maybe put this on top of a pediment, you could bring in any sort of form that you like, any other shape. I'm just going to use a cube. I'll bring this in here like this, and I will scale this a little bit bigger this way, maybe this way, and then I'll just look on the top view here. I'm just going to drag this over and maybe make it a little bit bigger this way, maybe a little bit deeper so that it is. Now, if I wanted to center these, you can select them both and they're these align. You click on a line. Now I can click these little dots. So if I click this dot, it's going to be exactly in the middle there, right? I can also click this one so it's in the middle that way. And then when I look at this now, you have, it directly on top. But I need to have this raise up. So what I would do is I'm just clicking outside of here to turn off the alignment. I'm going to click on the text here, and then this little arrow shows up here. You can take this and lift it up. I'm just going to lift this up so it sits kind of directly on top of this. And now I would have, some sort of pedestal for my project. With the cube as well, we could have a little bit of a radius on the edges if you wanted to round it out a little bit. You could make it more round. Um, the steps, right, are going to be important too. So if there's only one step, then it's going to be more angular and with less radius, so you can kind of play around a little bit with the form of it based on that. Um, the other thing that you could do is you can take things as positive and negative. So this, if I was ready to finish this off, which it looks like it's pretty good, what I would want to do here is I could just export this. Just hide my face here for a second so I can see what I'm doing. So export, what we'll do is just do export and then STL. Yeah, let's just do STL. Um, and then it will download to your downloads. That's pretty much it. So the next thing that I'm going to do with this though is I'll show you how to make a kind of a cutout instead of a positive. So right now this text is like a positive. I'm just going to, I'll just move this over. I'll just delete it. Let's delete the whole thing, start from scratch. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to bring in some text. Let's do another one that's just called what? No, what question mark? And we will uh, rotate it a little bit. So here, hold down shift, it'll snap. And then, ooh, why this is so funny looking. All right, I don't know what happened there. Let's try it again. Okay, and we'll rotate it this 90, and then we're going to lift it up a little bit. And then same thing, I'm going to bring in another cube here, and I'm going to make this a little bit taller, a little bit wider, both directions, this. Okay, and then I'm just going to take this and move it back a little bit until that is like peering out of it, right? So, and that could be another way to think about it, like a wall with text coming out. But I can also make this a cutout. So the way that I would do that is I would click first outside of the box. I'd click on the text and make it a hole. Now, it's not going to become a hole until you merge it together. So what you'd want to do then is once it's a hole, select both the objects, right? And then you do this little thing here that says union or group. And when you do that, then it's going to become a cutout. So if I zoom into this and rotate around, you can see now this is a cutout text of that sort of form. So if that's, that's good to go, then you same thing, you can just export it out. So feel free to experiment. There's lots of different shapes that you can bring in. One more thing I'll show you is this little squiggle one here, which is kind of fun. If you drag this in, you could actually like write or draw with it. So, you can kind of draw something like this and it become like a 3D model. So it gives you a preview of what that would look like. I'm just going to hit Command Z to undo it. But if I wanted to write something like, I'll just do, uh, okay, then that could be a text as well. So you could write something with this as well. If you don't like those fonts, you could do something a little more handwritten. If you don't like this, you can also take the eraser and you could like, you could make this cut out a little bit more, or you could draw in a little bit. So you could kind of feather this out or something like that. And you can, maybe trim that a little bit. So there's ways that you can work with this to get more of a handwritten kind of font, but that's another possibility. Once you're done, you just hit done and then the text would be there as well. So in either case, whatever you create, actually these two would be kind of good together now that I'm thinking about it. I'm going to take this and rotate it 90. Let's bring it here. Bring it on top. That would be good. Okay, what? That's what I'm saying, right? There we go. And now I might just take this and scale it, the whole thing up a little bit more, a little bit more, make this a little more. There we go. Okay, so now with this, what I would probably want to do with this then is actually just group the whole thing. So I'm going to rotate this a tiny bit this way. Oh, too much. Oh, well, I think it's okay. So we'll just take this whole thing, group it so it's one object, and then if you hit this home button, you can get it back to normal again. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So I'll save this as well. So export STL, the downloads. So once you do that, all you really need to do is send me a photograph of what you want this imported in, maybe a little bit of a sketch so I can understand what you want to do. We can also meet online for this, but I'm going to take your file and bring it into a software called Cinema 4D, where I'm going to take your photograph and then I'm going to use that as the background for your setting. So this is what we created with this image. You can see we have a student here in the foreground, the text that they created, and we merged them both together to get the lighting to be correct. So ultimately what we started with was this, just the word borrowed, right? As a 3D form, and then a photograph, and then we merged them together into the form. So we'll have to work together on this a little bit, but what ultimately what would help me is if you had a little bit of a sketch idea as to how you want this to sit in and a photograph that you're working with. Again, the photo is going to be best if it is, let me just hide this for a second so we can see it better. Uh, Okay, so this photo, again, there's our little water bottle as a place setting. It's in a big open area. We clearly see the direction of light of the shadow. You can see the student here with the light coming back behind him. And that gives us a clear view of what we're working with. So what you need to do is give me a photograph, make sure it's a, pretty clear, high resolution photograph. Um, Give me the model, the STL file that you create, and then some direction as to what you want the material to look like, how you want it situated, and then we can work together to get that completed. And then ultimately, again, what you'll produce is a PDF that has an image of before, an image of after, and a short paragraph description as to why you chose this and the materials that you chose and how you want it to interact with the landscape. So that's about it. If you have any questions, please let me know. We'll be talking about these a little bit further on April 5th when we meet as a group, and you'll each be presenting your text monument projects. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks.